Good morning. This is not going to be a midnight musings for once because I am working on that sleep schedule and I am actually sleeping. We are trying to live the healthy lifestyle, especially after my Kaplan classes where the psychiatrist who taught behavioral sciences really, he was there for 3 days, but he really hammered in how important sleep is, and I've been converted. So I am no longer that edgy, I'll sleep when I die type, high school mentality that lasted way too long. We have officially entered adulthood. It's winter, so the sun being out is very nice, and I would like to take advantage of it, so that's what's going on here. So I have had some very enlightening experiences in the last month, and I thought I'd share some of them. I'm currently posted in Gyne, and I have been doing the OPD and IPD quite a lot, especially with the head of department in the OPD. So this is what I have learned about the medical scenario in India from like a practical perspective. First off, doctors really don't spend enough time per patient, but that is not their fault. I talk about in my video how the WHO recommendation is 1 to 1,000 and Indian doctors are doing somewhere like 1 to like 1,500, I think, on average. We are, of course, located technically in the village, so all of the patients in the rural areas come to our hospital because it's a charitable hospital, which means that it's very affordable and it's easy for them to reach, which means that a lot of patients come, and they come from areas that are, low socioeconomic status and low education, definitely. The OPD days I'm there, which is like from 10 to 2 about, there has to be 100 patients a day just walking in. She diagnoses the problem. Well, no, first there's always tests. There's always tests to see what the problem is. There's very much a routine, a procedure to the way it's done. This is not going to be a bashing on doctors video because I have learned a lot. I'm not gonna bash on patients either because it is not their fault. They're not stupid. They're just so uneducated, probably because of lack of opportunity and access, which is a huge problem. Until education is fixed, we're not going to be able to address anything else. They don't know the name of their meds. No one ever knows the name of their medication, but there are patients who do not know their own age. Like, they have to check documents. When we were doing our breast cancer research, one of the most common correlations we found with patients presenting with a delay was lack of education, and there were patients who had never heard of breast cancer. So the idea that like we are totally reaching the rural population and educating them, no, it is not, and we need to get on that. Secondly, and this is a little more, well, not malicious, but this is a little worse. Ignorance is not their fault, but there is a lot of doctor switching, which is technically against medical etiquette and ethics anyways, to see another doctor's patient, which is why like they don't do that in the hospital. But a lot of patients they'll go to a private practitioner or they'll go somewhere else for months of their pregnancy, and then like 2 or 3 weeks before they'll show up at our hospital and be like, hey, I'm gonna have a baby soon. And the reason why is usually because these are the complicated pregnancies, like the ones that need the most attention, and it's probably like expensive for the delivery. So they go, okay, that's expensive, let's go to this charitable hospital where it is almost free. So it's definitely taking away resources from the people who actually need it, because if you could see a private practitioner for 8 months, then why can you not? Like, you know that delivery is going to happen. Like, you should plan for that. Those private practices, okay, maybe this is going to be a little bit of doctor bashing, but oh my god, those private practices, like, they do overcharge a lot, and all of these unnecessary tests, like, we'll look through the old slips. First off, the patients who don't come with their old medical information, medical records, because here everything is physical, there's a couple who, like, tore up their old papers, which is awful. You need those. Like, that's important. Take care of your records and make sure you keep them safe. Those are important. But when you look through the old records and there's like these tests that they did that are useless, and then the HOD's just like, well, I don't know why they did this. These are not necessary, but the tests that are necessary, they haven't done those. Some of the patients come and they're like halfway into the pregnancy or whatever, and the patient has high blood pressure, or like they're pre-diabetic, or they have gestational diabetes, and they're just not being treated for it. And it's like, what doctor were you seeing where they haven't addressed any of this? These are like high risk pregnancy factors. Like, you need to be on this from the beginning. Just a couple days ago, I was doing a medicine call for a patient who had hypothyroidism, and they increased the thyroxine dose to 150 like a day before delivery, when you're supposed to do it like at conception or as close to conception as possible, because it's important for like neural development and everything of the baby. So I don't know why they don't do it on time, except the patients probably don't present on time to do it. So yeah, that's like the amount of complicated pregnancies, especially when it comes to hypertension and gestational diabetes, and thyroid problems. There's a lot of thyroid problems. I didn't realize that that was such a common thing. I don't know if it's like India, Punjab, what, but follow-up, and when the doctor tells you, hey, come back after this time, you have to come back. It doesn't matter if you think you're okay now. You have to come back and get checked up. Do not just ghost your doctor. If you've been told to come for follow-up after a week, come for a follow-up after a week. It is not just for fun. It is not for extra money. Like, show up when you're supposed to show up. Something non-medical related, though, that I've seen is that some of these girls, I mean like young women, have been forced into the worst marriages ever. And it's not a surprise to me. I know how much marriage is a part of the culture, and it's like, hey, you're past 18, you need to start looking at marriage. Even with my friends, it's like, oh, you're almost done with your education, guess we have to look for a husband now. Someone said that to me. They're like, oh, your parents probably thinking about your marriage. And I'm like, no, don't do that. I don't want to talk about that. But they got married, and they have been married off. Just one of the patients, I'm pretty sure, was a victim of domestic abuse, and her husband has been in and out of the hospital. He's like, you've had this problem, you've been taking medicine for so long, it hasn't gotten better, and he gets mad at her. And mom was like, well, explain to him that that's not how it works. She had like a problem with like itching in the genital area, and I'm like, I was kind of worried that it was an STD, because I was like, abusive husband, it wouldn't be surprising. The PG's first response was go to the police, but when your husband's in and out of jail, it's clearly not working. She wasn't young. She was like definitely older. She has like 2 kids with him, and it's a sad case, but I don't know what you can do at that point. It's like, well, why, how do you get stuck in this marriage? Why didn't you leave? And she's like, my grandma wanted me to get married. And that is the most common story, that like grandparents are like, I want to see my child get married. I want to see my grandkids. Or like, this is a family friend, these are like a family, we want to see you guys get married. And then they die and they leave. Sounds so heartless, but they die and then they leave these women in awful marriages. So grandparents need to get over themselves. It doesn't matter if you see your like great grandkids or not. Your grandchild's happiness should matter more to you. There was another woman who, she was young, I think she was like just newly married and like newly pregnant, and her husband was away because he was a drug addict, which I'm not gonna bash on drug addiction. That's a huge problem. Opioid addiction is a huge problem in Punjab. But mom was like, why did you marry someone that you know is a drug addict? And she's like, my grandparents wanted me to marry him. Again, the most common story we get. The other common story we get is this patient was having like infertility issues, and she was newly married, and she got married in Jan, and after 1 month, her husband left for Dubai, which is a very common thing. Like, if they can't go Canada, they go to Dubai, and then they work there, and then they just leave their spouse at home. One of the things ma'am says to almost everyone is she asks them, how much are you educated? If you're married and you're a housewife, like, go to school. Tell your husband that I don't want to sit at home all day. Go to school. If you are educated, like, get a job. You should have some level of independence. You shouldn't just sit at home and waiting for your husband. Not that there's anything wrong with being a housewife, but when you have the choice and you choose to be a housewife, like, good on you. That is still feminist. You're making your choice. When you don't have the choice, then, like, it's important to stress to them that education is important, because some of them have been educated to, like, 8th or 10th or, like, 12th. That's the kind of, like, that's where it's at. So she was married, and after 1 month, her husband left. I think she was, I can't tell if she was there with, like, her aunt or her mother-in-law. It was a little bit confusing. But ma'am said, well, why don't you go to Dubai then? You should go too. And she didn't get to speak. Her attendant, I'm not sure if it was her mother-in-law or her aunt, was like, no, she can't go. And mom's like, why not? She's like, nee, she can't go bad. Or she can't go, like, out of the country. And mom's kind of, like, smiling, and the PGs are kind of, like, smiling, but in that, like, okay way. And it's like, the attendant is laughing, but it's like, okay, that's like, okay. And then mom goes, okay, so how much money is your husband sending you at least? Like, is he sending you a good amount of money? And he was. So she asked, well, how much of it is going into your pocket? And then at this point, like, she'd been, the patient herself was taken for, like, a physical checkup. So the PG was doing that while mom was talking to the attendant. And it was like, how much of that money actually goes in her pocket? The money goes to the family. We all spend the money together. And she's like, okay, but how much, like, when she wants to buy something, like, do you give her pocket money? She's like, no, if we need something, we buy it together. I kid you not, the exact sentence repeated over and over again. And she said, she was like, okay, but if she wants to buy, like, a new suit or something, no, we buy it together, we spend the money together. So essentially, she's newly married, she's at her in-laws' place, she's doing nothing all day but doing save-off for her in-laws, and she's completely dependent on them, which is just a recipe for disaster. But I hope things work out for her. And yeah, that's basically my experience in the hospital. I didn't really want to get into the, the problems with the medical system, because that's what my whole series is about, which is coming out, so be sure to look out for that. Thank you for watching it all the way through. I know I ramble a lot, but I have a lot of videos coming, so please hit that subscribe button, like this video, leave a comment, and turn on the notification bell, because I have no upload schedule, but I have a lot of videos on the way and I don't want you to miss any of them. So I'll see you guys later, and have a nice one, and yeah, peace. Bye!